We now have 24,439 chips, and now it is time to exude pressure. Okay, what we have here is we have a small stack to our left with about 10 big blinds or so. Okay, so it folds to me. Okay, I have 9-10 offsuit. It does not matter what hand that I have in this spot. Okay, it simply doesn't matter. I'm going to be coming in. I'm going to be coming into this pot. Okay, now what I could have done is I could have just open pushed on him, but you know what? I didn't think that it was worth it. It was 10 big blinds. If he only had 5 or 6 big blinds, I wouldn't be risking all too much, but I thought for 10 big blinds, I thought I could get away with just standard raising and getting him to fold. If he had come over the top of me, I would have folded. So, again, it's one of those situations where I could get away with this. Now, he just flat called, which is another problem with playing from the small blind, is you're out of position if you get flat called. And the flop comes ace, king, 5. And it's to me. And I thought that I was making a very, standard play. I bet at the flop. It's ace, king, 5. He either has an ace or he doesn't. Okay? There's just no way that, you know what I mean, that I'm not going to get the information I need by making this bet. So I bet the 3,800. He flat calls. So I'm done. I'm done with this hand. He flat calls 3,800 with only 2,800 behind. Okay? The 9-10 has no outs at this point, as far as I'm concerned. So turn comes a 4, and I just check fold. I might as well just open fold it, all right? But I took a chance at the pot. I raised pre, it didn't work. I took my one continuation bet, it didn't work either. But I have. Did he show? Let's see. Hold on a second here. He showed. This is very funny. Okay, so I checked, and he did show the ace 10. Okay, okay. Let me just tell you something. Error number 1. Okay, and error number 1. Do not show your whole cards, okay? Just don't. And I have fiddled with every different psychological reason why you could show them, and this, that, and the other thing. It's almost never a good idea, okay? In a game of imperfect information, the worst thing you can do is give your information away. It's just no good, okay? And yeah, I know people can think of all these reasons how they're going to psych their people into other people out into thinking that they have certain cards when they don't, blah, 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 blah. Just don't show the cards. Any information that you give is bad information. I mean, well, that's bad. It's bad for you to have given it, all right? And if you just stick to that, all that other stuff, if you concentrate on aspects of your game that have to do with card playing and that kind of stuff, rather than, when to figure out when to show your cards, just have it always on auto muck and never show your cards, and I'm telling you, you're just going to be better off. All right, so we're at 7-5. Fold. Jack 2. Fold. Just folding away. Nice call. 4-6 of clubs. Oh, beautiful. Nice country. 9-4 offsuit. Okay, so now we're at the 4-8 level. We get a pair of jacks. Very nice hand. We raise almost 3 times the big blind. And we take the pot down. Again, not a bad result here. Always good to take down these these pots where the antes are getting kind of big. 5-7 of spades. He limps. I just check. I got nothing. I mean, I'm not going to take a shot at this. I mean, I might have folded the best hand, but who cares? I mean, it was nothing to fight for, really, and the guy had chips. I don't want to get into a war with him. What I'd much rather do is play 7-2 offsuit here. Okay? So it gets folded around, and now I raise from the small blind. Okay, I just always want to just keep exuding pressure. I have about 10 times the pot or so, or actually about 15 times the pot or so I can afford to do something like this. So I raise with 7-2 of spades. Oh, so it wasn't 7-2 off. 7-2 of spades. Now the big blind with chips calls me. So now I better flop something really good. Like ace queen 5, perfect. So I bet and he folds. Okay, so I tried it last time, it didn't work. So I tried it this time again. I raised. You represent something. You get flat called. The flop comes ace queen 5. I will make this continuation bet 80 times out of 80. Okay, and unless he's got an ace, he's just not calling. Okay, unless he's got obviously like a set of 5s or something. But again, this is where you just don't need to know what your cards are. This is just you raise, continuation bet, raise, continuation bet. That is something you can do when you have chips, and it's something that I do quite frequently. Now we don't want to get greedy. We want to do this every hand, so we're going to be folding. Somebody raised anyway. We're going to be folding 9-5 here, obviously. King 6, King 8, and just keep letting them go. And we got plenty of chips here, and now we're getting a very aggressive table image. I remember this tournament like it was yesterday. I mean, we're really feeling like we're in control right now. Jack 3. So what happens is when you really start becoming aggressive on a table. Let's put it on pause for a second here. When you're becoming really aggressive on a table, what's going to eventually happen is eventually they are going to play back at you. And the part that is tough to teach, but I'm going to try during the course of all these lectures, is to know when you can make one of those real speculative calls, putting them on a steal, versus when you just have to just say, okay, you caught me, and lay it down. Okay? There's kind of a tension that you feel when you're watching yourself play, and you can judge this from the chat, you can judge this from the players, how quickly they act. What you could tell when people are getting sick of you. Okay? And when people are getting sick of you, what that means is that they are going to be raising you with hands that aren't so good. Okay? So that's one of the reasons why you want to be aggressive where you can, is because then people will make plays at you with hands that are not that good. And that's usually a very profitable situation. We got to walk with Queen 10. It's always a good thing. I mean, if you're going to walk, I mean, that shows something. It shows that people are afraid of you if you're going to walk. Folding King Jack there. It also shows they probably don't have any cards. Okay, King 3. Okay, here we go. Key hand. Could be the key hand of the tournament. Let's see what we got. We have Ace 9. It gets folded to us. We have, how many people are at this table? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are now 7-handed. Okay? We are 7-handed at this table. Hand number 165, we are 7-handed. And now we make a standard raise with Ace 9, which is a very solid play, 7-handed with the cutoff, and we get flat called by 2 people. Okay, so now what do we have here? We have 10,250 chips in the pot. One guy's got 26,000, another guy's 11,974, and we were the pre-flop raiser. Okay, so who has to have something here? All right? Nobody, okay? Because I've been raising every single hand, okay? Well, not every single hand. I've been raising a lot recently, and the small blind just completes. He doesn't re-raise me. The big blind, only calls, the cheap, cheap amount. So neither of them have to have anything. Okay, so I have Ace 9. I have 2 overcards to this board and the ace. All right, I'm going to presume that neither of these people have an ace, or there's a chance that one of them might have played back at me. So I am going into this thinking I either have the best hand or I have draws to that ace or 9. So it is going to take a lot for me to get off of this. So what happened is the first guy they both checked to me, and I made it 6,900 into a 10,000 chip pot, putting 17,000 in there. So the first player comes over the top, calling my 6,922, and only requiring me to call another 5,000. Okay? And this is why you have to accumulate chips. Because if this guy had chips, I would fold my ace-9. But because he doesn't, I am not allowed, right? I'm calling 5,000 to win 2 billion, okay? I very well might have the best hand, okay? He could have some weirdo straight draw here, and even if I don't have the best hand, I have outs. So this is I'm gonna, let's just see what happens in his hand. Call easily. He had a pair of 8s. And then I just immediately hit my 9 and he's busted, alright? So, first of all, what did he do wrong? Alright? What did he do wrong? Did he get sucked down on? See, this is what happens. He has a pair of 8s against my ace-9. He got all in on the flop. I had, just the aces and the 9s as outs. And he's now going to whine to all his friends how Sheets got lucky. Alright? The reason why Sheets got lucky is because this guy did not push all in with the 8s. Okay? And he has nobody to blame but himself. Alright? There are 2 reasons why this guy is not allowed to complain. One is that he didn't push all in the first place. Alright? I would have folded the ace-9 in a shot if this guy pushed all in. The second thing is, I have this phrase, if you want to, if you're gonna complain, make sure that you have chips, okay? You're not allowed to complain if you don't have enough chips to make people fold. I remember once, about 3 years ago, I was talking to Paul Phillips. He's a great player, very, very sharp guy, and I was talking to him at a live event, and he told me that the key to No Limit Hold'em tournaments is very simple. Just to get enough chips so that when it comes time for people to be pushing all in, you can call them and not have it bury you. Okay? It wasn't those exact words, but that was kind of the impetus of it, is that you have to build up enough chips so that when it comes time to this part of the tournament where people start pushing, alright, you have to have enough chips to be able to call them, knowing they're desperate, and have it not affect you that much, or you should have to have enough chips to push all in and make people fold to you. And this guy did not have enough chips to make me fold on the flop. He did have enough chips to make me fold pre-flop, but because he didn't play it that way, that is why he's out of this tournament. It's not because he got sucked out on. Okay, my play was forced. Right? I had absolutely no choice but to call on the after he pushed all in on the flop. He should have been pushing all in, and that's very obviously the key hand of the tournament. Now I have 34,000. I have 40,000 in chips, and I am pretty sure that at this point I was the chip leader. Okay, I'm not entirely sure, but I am pretty sure at this point that I was the chip leader. I wish I knew how many players were left. I mean, I know it's getting down towards the end since we're 7-handed. I think we're probably down to 3 tables at this point. And now now we get some folding. I don't know quite exactly what happened there. Oh no, I got to walk. I got to walk with 7-5. Okay, let's turbo fold through these next bunch. Jack 6, another beauty. I guess I'll talk to you about the history of the screen name in a second. During the next bunch of folds. Okay, what do we have coming here? Now we have Ace-6 in the big blind. Okay. I have Ace-6 in the big blind, and it gets folded around the cutoff, who makes it 3,000. Okay? He does not have to have anything. Okay? He's making a standard type raise, and this is where you could use your chips to an advantage. Okay? I can make a raise I can re-raise him and still leave enough chips where if he really does have something and pushes over the top of me, I'm still in great shape. Again, kind of a Paul Phillips type thing. You have to have enough chips to do the things you want to do, okay? And this is one of the things I want to do. The re-raise is an incredible tool, and if you have the chips to do it, you could just be lethal, okay? You have this cutoff guy who just, I'll just throw a raise out there, 3,000, whatever. I don't know what he has, but I come over the top of him for 13,000, still leaving 26,000 behind him. It's an incredibly strong play, and he folded pretty quickly, but he could have folded a lot of good hands here. I guarantee. Ace-6 is probably not the best hand in this spot. So in any case, he did end up folding, pretty quickly, if I recall. Moving along. Fold 3-2. Feeling a little bit tight right now. Okay, so again, we have chips, and we could do a lot of things here. We got 43,000 in chips at 6-12. We have a pair of nines. Obviously, we're going to raise it up here, 3,500. And now we have that situation. The guy in the big blind, he goes all in over the top of us. It's going to cost us only another 11,000. We're getting about 2-1 with a pair of nines, which is typically it's very, very good odds. Here's a good rule of thumb. Okay, if you have any kind of a hand at all, okay, and you're getting 2-1, you just call the all-in. Right? That's usually a good way to think about it. There are certain other things you have to consider later on, like if you are the under the gun raiser and then you have a big blind push over the top of you, you have to give him credit for a little more than that because you've represented more strength by going, by raising from under the gun. So if he's going to push all in the face of that representation of strength, then you're probably going to need a little better than 2-1 to call with quote-unquote any kind of hand. But a pair of nines against a short stack who's obviously looking to do something pretty soon, and considering that even if I lose, I still have 28,000 chips, and this is a pretty trivial call as far as I'm concerned. So I did call. He had sixes. I don't know. Is that a good play with sixes? Knowing that I'm going to call, he's basically calling it all in with a pair of sixes. I don't like that play at all. Again, it's just the old books. You just don't want to be a caller, and what he's really done is turn himself into a caller by pushing all in when somebody else is getting 2-1. That's something that very few people really think about is a lot of people say, okay, what kind of odds am I getting to make this all-in call? But what you really have to think about also is if before you push all in on somebody, what odds are you giving them to call? If you want to get somebody to fold, you have to make sure that you're giving them a reason to fold. You can't give a person 2-1 odds on the call, and then and then complain if you all in with a pair of sixes against something. Okay, 10 jack of clubs. Again, we continue to pound away at this blind over here. So in any case, I had 60,104 in chips, and somebody raised, and I mini-raised him, okay? And he flat called for 6,200. Now, before we even go on, let's think about what he could have here by doing that, all right? He could have, in my opinion, a medium-sized pair. He could have a small pair. He could have ace-queen. He could have ace-jack, king-queen of diamonds. A lot of hands that he could be doing this with, and we have to kind of see what he does on, the rest of the streets. He checks here. And I probably could have bet this flop, but I just checked behind him. Now he bets 2,000 into a 14,000 chip pot. Now, this means one of two things, okay? This either means he's got nothing or he has a monster, okay? He's betting 2,000 into a 14,000 chip pot. Now, I could have done one of two things. I could have either flat called, three things. I could have just pushed all in, or I could have mini-raised to kind of find out exactly what he did have. But here's the problem. If he bets 2,000 into a 14,000 chip pot, let's say I make it 6, and then he pushes all in, am I really going to fold the aces? Right? I don't think so. Okay, so here's a case where I was nervous a little bit that he might have had something good, but you know what? Let's just call and see what happens. So now I just called the 2,000, so that was 18,000. And then what does he do on the river? On the river, he checks. So what do I do? All right, we have a board of 9, 2, 3, 6, 5. Okay, so what am I beating, and versus what? Not so much what am I beating, but he's checked. What are my advantages of betting? Well, if I bet here, he could either raise me with a hand that has me beat, like any 4. Okay, he could have possibly checked this river and had a 4, or he might have a second best hand which he calls me with. Now, for whatever reason, I just decided to check behind, and I'll be wondering if people can guess what his hand is here. I mean, let's review this action. Right? This is a very interesting hand. He raised, I re-raised pre the minimum, pretty much. He flat calls. Flop comes 9, 2, 3, all rainbow. He checks. Excuse me. He checks, and I check behind. 6 of hearts comes, putting 2 hearts on the board. He bets 2,000, okay, into a million chip pot, and I just call. The river comes a 5 of diamonds, and he checks, okay. What hand do you think he has? Well, I had no clue what he had, so I just checked behind, and let's see what he had. He had a pair of kings, all right? The two of us were both slow playing and afraid of each other at the same time. This is one of those hands where if I had just pushed over the top of him all in, I would have gotten all of his chips, and basically the tournament was going to be over. But this is one of those situations where I got a little too cautious, a little too tricky, and it really cost me. Okay, that's 19,003 chips that I could have had in front of me. But you know, the problem is that when you go over these hands, you don't really remember what you were feeling at the time. And I remember at the time that when I checked behind, I thought he might have been trapping me in some way. So, you know what? In any case, I have 70,000 in chips now, and all is well in Denmark, so to speak. And I still have a big chip lead. So now we have 10-4 offsuit. Back to the folding. Queen 8. So where are we at? We're at 70,391 in chips. I appreciate them showing that I would have lost here. Some guy would have had a straight if I stayed in the hand. And, you know, we're probably about 2/3 done by now. And just kind of to review where we are, I mean, we started off with 3,000 chips. We lost almost all of them, pretty much in one hand. And just kind of didn't get discouraged and continued to fight back. And then we got some good hands. We played them very well. And we took advantage of one guy who played a hand very poorly. And we have a really, really, really big chip lead. And hopefully we can continue to put the pressure on. And again, we have a very, very nice chip lead. And we're getting, you know, kind of towards the home stretch here. I think we're probably down to like 2 tables right now. Folded a7 there. You know, some people will raise from that spot, but even though it's a little bit short-handed, still under the gun, and a7, as you know, is a hand I particularly dislike. I don't like the ace-rag hands at all. Okay. All right, now we have ace-queen, very nice hand, and it gets mini-raised ahead of us now. This is kind of a standard type play for me. You know, the guy makes it 2,400, he just minimum raises there. And the small blind flat calls. To be perfectly honest, I mean, this is a type of pattern which I would make this play with a hell of a lot worse than ace-queen. I I mean, this is a typical what they call squeeze play, where somebody will raise and then someone will just call, and someone to act behind them will come over the top of both them, basically squeezing that money into the pot. So I would make this play. I mean, I would re-raise, but certainly worse than ace queen here. But I like my all-in here. I don't think I have to. If I make it 7,000 or 8,000, I don't really particularly want action from ace queen. So this is an okay play. It might be a little bit of an overbet, but neither of these guys have that many chips. I mean, it's like 33,000, 36,000. They're gonna really have to have a really big hand to call here. So let's see what happened, and nobody called. Again, we can opt to speed this up or go a little slower or whatever. King 2 we're going to be folding. Again, this is a really neat way. You just kind of rifle through the hands that really don't mean anything. 7 deuce. I mean, I could have raised there. I mean, why not? I mean, but that you have to kind of have a sense of when you're going to get played back at. I mean, I'm not the type that's usually going to raise every button, but I could have raised there with 7-2. Have been perfectly well within my right to do that. We got ace-king against ace-jack. Okay. And one thing we've noticed, I mean, again, we have not sucked out one time this whole tournament. We won like a race or two, but absolutely nothing, that would consider like putting a really bad beat on somebody. Oh, this is a very strong laydown by me. If I limp behind this guy, I would have had king 10, I would have had trip 10s, and whatever. But king 10 is a hand that I really don't like at all, and even just to limp behind is just not worth it. I mean, these are really your typical. These are really your typical type trap hands, which you really don't want to get yourself involved in. Moving along, we 6-2, very nice hand. Okay, now we have king 10 again, and now we figure we'll see a flop. Okay, the guy only raised a little bit, and we're in the big blind, and you need to let people know that your big blind is not always going to be for free. So every once in a while you do have to make some kind of speculative call, and I made the call with king 10. I might have made it with worse. Every once in a while I like to just throw in, especially when I have chips, just a random loose call from the big blind. Sometimes I wouldn't mind showing it down and showing a bad hand just to kind of mess people up as far as my image goes. So in this case we called, and we got a perfect flop. Okay, so what do? Some people consider betting. Some people would check. You could really justify either one, and this really depends on if you know the people you're playing with. In other words, if I was playing kind of a sharp player, I would probably lead out with my kings. Okay, because everybody expects you to check if you hit a king. So if against some players I would lead out. Here I just figured that I would just check and just see what the guy does, and he bet and I just called. Okay, this is a hand I really wanna break him on, let him hang himself, and see what happens. Now here comes my gin card. All right, the 10 comes, I make kings full, and now he pushes, obvious call, and I was beat. Oh my goodness, I was beat, and the 10 was actually a suck out. So just as I said, I've had no suck outs. That was a real nice one. But I guess it's not a suck out if you always think that you're ahead. I never thought I needed that 10, so it's not necessarily a suck out. Okay, so in any case, guy makes it 2 times. I have ace 4 in the big blind. Again, I just did defend the big blind. I just did defend the blind before, but now I guess I could re-raise here. I could call here, but you can never do a lot of harm folding hands like ace 4. Okay, because what happens is you don't know where you're at if you flop your ace. You're really just playing for a wheel draw, to be honest. I mean, you really don't know where you're at, even if you hit your ace 4. All right, a whole bunch of all-ins. With that king 10, we got 88,000 chips, and so we are really in business. Okay. And one thing, there's going to be probably some special bonus coverage after the view of this tournament. And that kind of depends on the other circumstances. But I hope to have some bonus coverage for those of you that are able to make it through this entire video. But we shall see. So again, King 9, we like to throw that hand away. And no big deal. I mean, we have a big chip lead, but and I'm all ready to put pressure on people, but you don't have to play every single hand. Okay, so this guy comes in for 3,200 and just 2 times the big blind, but it represents 15% of his stack. So we have to put him on a little something, okay, at least. But you know what? We're not going anywhere with our jacks. I mean, one of the benefits, again, of having a big stack is you can make these kind of plays. You can make these kind of plays, and even if you get called and lose, it's not really going to damage you too much. So what do? We push all in, and he folded. Right? I don't know. I guess he could have had anything in that spot. We have nothing. So we fold. Okay. Now we get King, Queen, and Diamonds, which is a decent hand to come in raising with. More than happy to raise with a hand like this, especially when I have a lot of chips. And we get one caller. Actually, we get a mini raiser. Here. Let's see what happened. We made it 4,000. The guy mini raised to 8,000, and the mini raisers have not really impressed me. Okay. Sometimes they have aces and they're trying to be cute, but what I'm finding are the people who are mini raising are trying to act tricky when really they don't have too much. Okay, so let's see what happens. So we did flop a very, very nice hand, and I just open pushed on him. Okay, now this is definitely kind of an overbet, but what happened was that I wanted him to maybe put me on a flush draw and call me with a pair of tens or something like that. And it's also kind of a tempo thing. What I'm trying to do as we get down to the final whatever is kind of let people know that I'm willing to just go plow all my chips in at any moment. And I'm more to the point, I'm willing to put other people's tournament at risk at a moment's notice. I mean, as soon as these cards came down, no messing around, I just threw all my chips in the middle. More to the point, again, I threw all of his chips into the middle. Because again, I mean, I have twice his stack. So I pushed and he folded, and now we got 104,000 in chips. All these pots add up. 10-6, we got nothing. Five, 7 of spades. We don't need to play that. Again, we could have re-raised him. We could have called, but again, there's no real harm in folding the big blind there. King 3, got nothing. Well, hold on. I mean, King 3. I mean, I kind of went through that really quickly. It gets folded to us, and again, we have this big stack, and when I just said you got nothing, it's when you have this type of stack, and the other guy has like 10 times the pot, or actually not even 10 times the pot, it's got 10 times the big blind. I mean, it's time to start really crushing these people. Okay, you've worked really hard, or I've worked really hard to get all these chips, and one of the things you can use these chips to do is just plow people. Okay, I mean, this guy's got 10 big blinds, and he can't call here with all but a very select group of hands. So I'm probably making this play with a hand a hell of a lot worse than 10-3 with King 3. So if he calls me, big deal. Okay, I can still suck out on him. But there are very, very, very few hands he can call me for his tournament life with. So I mean, again, a typical scenario. He's got 10 times the big blind, and I've got a huge amount of chips. I'm going to push in on this guy. I mean, almost every time, I think. And he folded. Okay, probably. I mean, he could have folded the best hand. Who knows? Okay, now it gets folded to me. It gets folded to the cutoff +1. He makes it 5,000. I have a pair of sixes. Again, this is a standard isolation type play. He makes it 5,000. He's obviously committing, some portion of his stack. Okay, so you do have a pair. Pair's a very good hand, especially heads up against one person. All right. So in any case, I isolate the guy. I push all in. Don't let anybody else try to come in behind me, and we'll see what kind of cards he has. Beautiful. Ace-4. Excellent. We are a big favorite. Probably going to bust him. Oh, harsh. Remember how I laughed when we got that guy when he had a pair of twos against our ace-queen? Flop came Jack-3, Jack-3. I mean, those running two pairs are just brutal, which is why these small pairs can sometimes be very, very frustrating to play. So we lost the pot. We lost about 22,000 chip pot. So as I was saying, I have a pair of jacks, so we make it 4,300, and he just calls. Okay? Now the flop comes Queen, Queen 4. This is an absolutely fantastic flop. Okay? He either again has a queen or he doesn't. I find it very difficult to think he has anything but some small pair here. Okay? Or some hand that's just my jacks are gonna be good quite a bit of the time here. So he checks, and I check behind, trying to get him to bluff, and I do. He takes a shot at the pot, and I flat call again, and hopefully this king comes out, and maybe he'll take yet another shot at it. No, he checks, and I check, and that's about it. Now, you might think, why did I check behind there if I was so sure I had the best hand? Well, when you think that a person is either drawing at something, or you're bluffing, or whatever, and he checks, you're usually better off on the river, just checking behind. I mean, you're not going to get paid off anything. Like if you think a guy's bluffing or drawing and didn't make it, you're never really going to get paid off of anything unless you happen to be wrong. You know what I mean? If you're right that he was bluffing, you don't get paid. And if you were wrong, he might put in some kind of raise on you that you had, that you didn't even consider. And so when you have a situation like this, somebody's bluffing or somebody's drawing, and then they check that river, and you think they missed, you're better off just checking behind them and just scooping the pot. Okay, 7-4. Go to the next one. Jack Queen. We have 89,000 in chips. Again, this is the tournament from where we came from 250 chips all the way back up, and we did it with patience. We did it with gear changing, and now we are reaping the benefits. We're on hand about 208 here. Okay, and look at that. We folded Ace 10 again. I'm sticking to my to my strategy. When I have these Ace rags, and believe me, Ace 10 is Ace rag, and you're 9-handed. You have a full table here. You're under the gun. Just let it go. Okay. This no limit hold'em is a game of position, and when you have bad position like that, okay, you really want to only enter with very, very, very good hands. And I would rather, if I felt really compelled to enter the pot under the gun for a raise, I'd rather do it with a hand like 6-7, where you're not gunning for the same flop cards as someone that calls you with Ace Jack or Ace Queen or whatever. Okay. King's throttles nines. So he's getting up there. He's got about 61,000. So he and I are basically the two chip leaders at the table. We got a couple of 40,000 guys in there also. We don't need to mess around with 7-3. And it gets folded around to me, and I raise, as I always do, and oops, we got caught. All right, no big deal, okay? No big deal. I just raised them, try to keep the pressure on the blinds, and every once in a while, you just have to accept they're going to play back at you. And, usually you're going to have to be laying those down. Again, no big deal. That doesn't mean it's going to stop us. We just throttle everybody. If they're not going to fold to a standard raise, let's just throw it all in, okay? Now we'll show you how to fold, okay? Nice and easy, okay? So King 2, that's fine. We're right back on the path here. King 10, we're going to raise again. Just constant pressure. Okay, when you have chips, that's what you want to do. You want to be putting constant pressure on these people. Okay, now we wake up with a pair of nines. Okay, so what do we do here? Right? Somebody limped ahead of us. We have a pair of nines. There are so many ways you can play in this spot. You could just call the 4,000. If I wanted to really continue on with my theme, I would just probably repop all in here. Okay, and that is certainly an option also. But I figured I would just try to as always, I wanted to mix things up just a little bit. And I figured I would just make a standard re-raise with nines, enough to blow everybody else out, and maybe this guy will flat call me out of position, and I'll probably be able to win the pot that way on the flop. After maybe I'll play him, or if he comes over the top of me all in, I'm probably going to fold, to be honest. Right? If this guy looks going to limp re-raise me all in with not from that position, I'll probably end up folding. So we're just going to play it by ear. I have position. I can do whatever I want with this guy. He ends up folding. Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, I am fairly certain that we are either at the final table or the final two tables. Hope MindWise can help me figure that out, because that I don't remember. But again, as I said before, a multi-table tournament. Don't worry about about how many people are left. You just keep playing until there's no one left, and then you win. Okay, very, very simple game sometimes. It's funny because see some people that play these Poker Stars tournaments, the Sunday tournaments that start at like 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, and they have about 5,500 people in them. Okay, and people say, how do you deal with a tournament of 5,500 people? I mean, the way I look at it is, look, the tournament's going to go 7 hours. It's just a matter of playing for 7 hours. You just don't worry about how many people are in, and if you could just continue to just vegetate in front of the TV set or in front of the computer screen, and just last for 7 hours, you're going to win $200,000. Once you start worrying about, oh my God, there's 4,000 people left, I mean, that's when you just go crazy. Okay, we're just kind of moseying along here. I mean, again, we have 92,000 in chips. We're just really exuding pressure where we can. Usually only in position, or usually only with good cards, and we fully expect to win. I mean, we have a lot of chips. We have a lot of leverage, and the people are afraid of us. I mean, we're in really just perfect shape here.